Well, you can't always play the game you want. You should know that because you've been watching what's going on in the world. So welcome to the game we're in. It's the show where you'll get everything you need from primary season 2022. I'm Maya May, and this is Lincoln Project senior advisor and elections expert, democracy expert, and all-around good dude, Trygve Olson. Hi, Trygve.
Maya, how are you today?
Ooh, I am still recovering from last week. I'm not going to lie. I feel like I need this entire week off, but we can't take the week off because we are still in primaries. And it's pretty clear what the stakes are. We have a GOP that's gone completely nuclear off the deep end right now, defending the lunacy that is Trump, and Democrats who are just trying to govern in a climate where the urgency of keeping the House and the Senate is at the forefront of everyone's minds. I'd love for this to be normal times, but it's not, Trygve.
It's not normal, Maya.
What's happening?
Not normal.
What's happening to our
democracy? They have gone nuclear, and we've now found out it seems that Trump has taken nuclear documents. You know, the whole thing about that is, honestly, there's a little bit of a repeating thing that's going on here, right? Mm-hmm. So every time Trump has something like that, they flood the zone with every narrative you can possibly think to try and confuse people, to give them something they can latch onto. And we're seeing this again. We saw that with when all the Russia stuff came up. Right. We saw that, quite frankly, when he was talking about grabbing women in the campaign. We see it time and time again. And the truth of the matter is, you know, most Americans have never had experience with classified information. Right. So he just throws enough shit out there. Obama took nuclear. I declassified it. Right. It's like whatever sticks. It's just it's outrageous.
It's outrageous, and it's too much, and it's distracting. I almost forgot that we had primaries last Tuesday because I came out of this show on Monday to the news about the search of Mar-a-Lago. And I was like, it really is. This man has figured out how to make himself the center of the national conversation again. And if we do not keep our eyes on the prize, I fear for what will happen in the midterms. So that's what this show is about, y'all. Because there aren't so many states left in the primary schedule. We're talking today about Wyoming and Alaska, two very big states with very, very small populations. And believe it or not, an outsized influence in the midterm races with Trump-endorsed candidates abound. Trygve, what's our theme for this week?
Well, I think one thing that should be a theme for this week is for those people, and we know our viewership was down a little bit last week because I usually watch it when right afterwards. I was so consumed with Mar-a-Lago being raided. If you didn't watch last week, it's important to go back and do that because, you know, we have Wisconsin and some of the existential states were going on, and there was some stuff we'll talk about that, and Minnesota to a degree at the end of the show. But you know, what's going on right now is we're getting towards the end of the line. Obviously, the Cheney primary is a big deal. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk some about Sarah Palin potentially returning. So you have sort of the ultimate fighter against MAGA in Liz Cheney and the mother of MAGA both up this week. So, and you know, anything with Sarah Palin, and we'll show some stuff, you're going to get a healthy dose of batshit nuts.
Absolutely. But let's start in Wyoming with the surprise hyper-conservative crush of the left. It's a little weird. Everyone's like, we don't agree with her policies, but we like the fact that she's sane. Representative Liz Cheney. She sports a voting record aligned with Trump, penchant for glib commentary on the January 6th committee. Yet she's not doing well in Wyoming, as we know, because she's standing against Trump. She's not mincing words. So before we dive in, actually, let's take a look at this ad from the Republican Accountability Project.
As our founding fathers recognized, democracy is fragile. The sacred obligation to defend this peaceful transfer of power has been honored by every American president, except one. On the morning of January 6th, President Donald Trump's intention was to remain president of the United States, despite the fact that he knew that he lost the election. His own campaign leadership, his White House staff, Justice Department officials repeatedly told President Trump that his claims of a stolen election were false. Despite this, President Trump convinced his supporters that fraud had stolen the election and to travel to Washington, D.C. for January 6th. He was aware that individuals in the crowd had weapons and directed them to march on the United States Capitol. While the violence was underway, he placed no call to any element of the United States government to instruct that the Capitol be defended. Millions of Americans put their trust in Donald Trump. It can be difficult to accept that President Trump abused your trust, that he deceived you. But that is a fact. I wish it weren't true, but it is. Every American must consider this. Can a president who is willing to make the choices Donald Trump made during the violence of January 6th ever be trusted with any position of authority again?
No. The answer would be no.
I think it's more like fuck no.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, that's powerful. Her, if you look at that, it's all about her own words, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Liz Cheney, regardless of what happens in the primary, is someone who's found their voice, and she's someone who's demonstrating leadership. Mm-hmm. And in the game we're in, the policy differences don't matter as much. I say this all the time. For Donald Trump, it's not about policy, it's about power. Liz Cheney is applying the 7 rules for dealing with autocrats. There's zero-sum judo in there. There's speaking truth to power in there when she says, I wish it weren't so, but, abused your trust. She's applying all of those rules. For those of you who don't know about my 7 rules.
I love the rules. I was going to say.
Just go to my Twitter feed. It's the pinned tweet. I've written about it a lot. I have a lot of examples. But yeah, I mean, whatever happens, there's a great piece in the Washington Post today that essentially makes the point Liz Cheney's political life may be ending and it's only just beginning. She is going to continue to lead regardless of whatever happens on Tuesday. She's already established herself.
But unfortunately, right now, it looks like she is going to lose this primary to Harriet Hagman, who was endorsed by not just one, but 2 Trumps, Donald and Eric. I honestly didn't know anyone other than the local Coke dealer cared about Eric's endorsement. But before we run,
I'm not sure Donald cares about Eric, so there's that.
It's a weird ad, which is why I think we need to see it. But before we do, can you tell us a little bit about her opponent, about
Harriet Hagman?
Yeah, about Harriet Hagman.
Yeah, Harriet Hagman's a lobbyist. She has a house in DC that she bought. She was a Republican National Committee woman from Wyoming who was never Trump in 2016. She sounds
sane, but yet
she's somewhat, she wants to be, my old boss, Tommy Thompson, used to say there's 2 kinds of politicians, those who want to do things and those who want to be. Harriet Hagman's just somebody who wants to be. And so she's more than willing to have gone from not being Trump like J.D. Vance to being all in for Trump. That's really, that's what's infecting the Republican Party. And it's why, there's people in the Republican Party who believe you can have you have a permanent governing coalition if you could just have the coalition without the insanity. But the insanity is the coalition because it infects all these people. Right? The insanity takes over. It's like
not just the people, but the discourse itself, because now it makes it very difficult to get legislation through, even though the Biden administration is doing that. But it is incredibly difficult when you have all of this chaos and craziness on the court.
Well, it's like a 1980s, horror film, The Thing or something, where it just infects everything. Alien, maybe it was. I don't know. Any of our fans on Twitter, you can remind me whatever the movie was, but there's probably about 60 of them, and none of them are Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But the reality is it's just infecting everything, and Harriet Hagman's an example of that. There's a few other candidates running there. It's going to be interesting to see how many Democrats change their registration to vote for Liz Cheney and what percentage she ultimately gets. It could be closer than people think, but she's really got an uphill battle.
Well, let's look at
which is unfortunate.
Let's look at Hagman's ad really quick, and then we'll wrap up talking about that.
For too long, Liz Cheney has bowed to the Democrat elites like Nancy Pelosi. That's why my father and I endorse Harriet Hageman for Congress. Hageman will defend our border and our Constitution. That's why I'm joining President Donald Trump to officially endorse Harriet Hageman for Congress. She's the Congresswoman Wyoming deserves.
This primary put America first. Vote Trump endorsed Harriet Hageman for Congress. Wyoming Values is responsible for the content of this message.
Former president, I want to say former president. Every time they say President Donald Trump, drives me nuts.
You know, I just think Don Jr. is not so bright. I think about a report. I have a reporter friend, and we were talking. This is in 2015, late 15, early 16, and the person was going to have some drinks with Eric and Don Jr. in New Hampshire, you know, right in the middle of the primaries, which reporters do. And I was talking to the reporter afterwards, and the conclusion was not so bright, just silver spoon. And I think you see that, you know, I mean, honest to God. Yeah, I mean, look, if you think about what's going on here, right? So it's border, it's, you know, it's the same general buckets that they throw out.
Is that what we're worried about here?
I don't know what borders Wyoming. You know, it's just, I'm kind of left speechless by the entire thing. Harriet Hageman isn't serious, and Liz Cheney is extraordinarily serious as a person.
It should be a no-brainer for the people of Wyoming to look at someone like Liz Cheney, who is clearly a national leader, and say, yes, this is the person who represents our interests. And so, again, like you said, this shows how far gone the Republican Party is, which are we ready to move on to Alaska? Because I feel like if we're going to talk about pretty far gone.
Yeah, that's kind of the other side of the coin, right? You have Liz Cheney, who's playing the game we're in, and is leading the pro-democracy side, and now we can talk about the mother of all of this MAGA madness. And you know, I keep thinking of that song, "You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet," because now we're really going to get into the crazy stuff, which after having Don Jr. on in an ad is really saying something. So let's talk Alaska.
Let's talk Alaska, where we have, as you all know, Sarah fucking Palin. It's like VH1's Where Are They Now, but like the political edition. My question is, what the hell, Trygve? Like, is Tina Fey behind this? Is SNL trying to boost the rating? Like, why is she doing this again? Why is she back?
She wants to be. I don't know. I mean, it would be impossible for me to get in the mind of that. I mean, all humans are a little crazy, but like she takes it to a whole different level than most.
And she buys her own hype, is what I get. Like, she's the energy when she's on stage and when she's speaking. It's like she's appeared at Trump's rallies where she led a drill baby drill chant, like it was the early 2000s, like today, now. Like, and it's like, well, they can't open their, you know, I don't know. Do we want to look at this clip?
Yeah, we can look at the clip. I think the important thing about Sarah Palin, though, is you have to recognize, like, in the game we're in, when you have, you know, she would be an autocratic enabler. When you have somebody like that down, like, you don't let them back in the game. So anybody who's watching this in Alaska, quite frankly, you know, you need to get out and vote if you haven't already. It's ranked choice voting, which makes it a little bit different. And to some degree, this is going to be a test. Can ranked choice voting keep crazy out? I don't think it's a given that she's going to beat Begich or the other candidates who are in the race. But, you know, and there's 4 dozen of them. I mean, for Christ's sake, Santa Claus is coming to town. There literally is a guy named Santa Claus running in that race.
Bringing gifts is crazy. Now, you mentioned ranked choice voting, Trygve, really quickly, because I heard about it from Andrew Yang, and everything that Andrew Yang says I think is terrible. But ranked choice voting, actually a good thing. But could you explain a little bit to our audience, for people who don't know what ranked choice voting is?
Yeah, so when people go into the ballot box, they make their choice, and then they also rank voters. So what you end up happening is, and I think you're going to see it in the primary. So there's 2 elections going on. There's a special election for Don Young's seat that's only going to serve till the end of the year. So somebody will go into Congress, and then there's the primary and ultimately the general election. And all of those, they'll cast their vote, and then they'll also rank several of the candidates. And so who's ever the first choice, like when they count the votes, whoever gets the most, people on the bottom get eliminated, and then their second choice is taken, and it moves people up. What's likely to happen is for the general election in November, you're going to end up with Bagich, who would have never gotten through the Democrat primary, probably running against Palin. And that actually is a good thing, because you're going to basically have 2 conservative candidates, one insane and one who's much more of a moderate in Bagich. So that's the most likely outcome there. But it's a different system. I've seen where it's used. There's a lot of European countries that use it. And, in theory, in a 2-party system, it kind of opens up the middle. But we'll see. I mean, this is really a test.
Well, that's the thing. And like, she's a crazy fish in a crazier pond now. And so what impact is she having? Is she going to win? Like, is Palin going to pull this one out?
Well, she could. And the scary part about that is you don't want, Sarah Palin isn't really interested in being a member of Congress representing Alaska.
Right.
Like, it's not what she's going to leverage that into is a national platform to try and come back. She's going to be spending all her time traveling around the country, and I'm sure she'll have a caucus with Lorena Bobbitt.
Well, that's the thing.
Boebert. I always do that. Right. Well, it is fitting, because we apparently have Carrie Lake talking about the size of Ron DeSantis' junk. So
exactly. Like, we've got BDE has entered the chat. And I don't think that's what this country needs right now, to be honest with you.
I'd be more interested if Doug Mastriano at the event talks about the size of Ron DeSantis' junk. That would be.
These are the new talking points, Trygve, because they can't back the blue anymore because they threw that out the window. So now the new talking points are apparently.
Well, it kind of all goes, Trump alluded to that, his hand size in the debate, right? Like, again, it's not serious. But the thing about Palin is she is going to use that platform, if she gets elected, to have the credibility of a member of Congress, and then go around and raise a lot of money for other candidates. And she's going to try and use this to build into something. And, as has been well documented, she was a seriously flawed choice by John McCain. And I think, that as somebody who worked in McCain's orbit overseas, that is a mark on his legacy that is otherwise a pretty amazing legacy. But she's back, and we just need to make sure that she isn't all the way back. And I think if she loses, which she should, it kind of eliminates her from the conversation, you hope. But
okay, well, good people of Alaska, friends of good people of Alaska, you know what to do. You need to get out and make sure that this woman does not enter the national conversation any more than she already is. I thought Boebert kind of replaced her. They kind of look the same to me. So I feel like
they do,
right? Okay.
I think Boebert kind of goes for a Sarah Palin look.
Yeah, and she's probably mad. She's probably mad that Palin came back, and she's like, wait a second, this is my look now. This is my thing. And, Palin better watch out, because Boebert's husband seems to be pretty aggressive about defending what he feels is his family, because I think he ran over his
property, probably.
He's going to drive up to Alaska and do some crazy stuff. All right, enough of the crazy.
That's his woman.
It's insanity. We do want to recap last week, especially because, as Trygve pointed out, a lot of us got completely.
Wait, before we recap last week, don't we have a little Palin insanity?
Oh, we do. I
need some levity, Maya.
I completely forgot.
Honestly,
I got so into talking about how
I hope she plays the flute like she did on Saturday Night Live.
Yes,
in the talent portion of the contest.
Yes, it's important to not just tell you about the crazy. We got to show you the crazy. So let's roll that clip.
The stuff that you've heard about me, you guys, it's a lie. I'm way worse than what you've heard in the press. And I'm going to fight even harder for Alaska's interests and to save this country. But in the midst of all of it, you guys, you did not bend. You did not bend. We stood up because we're fed up and we're taking it back from an arrogant, out of touch, out of control, overreaching, overtaxing, centralized big brother government. Now we said, we'll take it from here. So are you ready? Are you ready, Alaska? This is huge. As Mike Lindell said, this is huge. This is life-changing, what's coming up here in the midterms, the change that are needed. And it's no longer Democrat versus Republican. This is all about control versus freedom. It's good versus evil. It is a spiritual battle.
Control versus freedom. Is she talking about pantyhose? Like what? Like, this is insane. I feel like that's the only thing she might be qualified to talk about.
She's quoting Mike Lindell.
It's like
right.
What?
By the way, you know, Mike Lindell, I was watching Fox. Now he's not only my pillow guy, he's got like my store where they sell all kinds of crap, popcorn, whatever.
Like
As
my
I said to you beforehand, they probably sell my penis enlargers. Clearly,
I mean, she must have
nuts.
a thing for him. Because to quote him of all people, I think she's got to have a thing for him. That's my feeling.
He's nuts too, but I mean that tells you something. They all quote each other too. But the you know, the thing about it is that she's doubling down on, you know, fake news media and all the rest of it. But you know, again, having her back on the national stage with credibility being a member of Congress is not good for the battle between autocracy and democracy. It really is.
What this is all about.
She needs to go away.
Bye, Sarah Palin.
We hope.
Okay, now we can recap last week.
Yes, recap.
I want to say cleanse our palate, but last week's primaries saw more Trump-endorsed candidates with victory, and we found out who Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers will be facing. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so he's going to be facing a businessman, Tim Michels. Tim Michels' family is a family of road builders. It's interesting because actually Tim Michels got a little bit of an Oz thing going on in that he has a huge mansion in Connecticut, which it appears his wife basically lives there, and I think he probably does too. Kids go to school there. You know, he clearly has the family business connection to Wisconsin, but here's the thing about Tim Michels. Tim Michels, right after the election, he took down the fact that he was endorsed by Donald Trump. We called him out on it at the Lincoln Project. He put it back up, right? He can't decide what he wants to be. And I can tell you, I don't know Tim Michels. I knew his father from when I was doing campaigns in Wisconsin long ago. You know, I don't think Donald Trump's their cup of tea, but you know.
But they don't want to piss off Trump either. So
they wanted to be the nominee for governor. Evers doesn't change anything. He won't admit what happened in the election in Wisconsin. It's outrageous. You got him running. Ron Johnson obviously is running against Mandela Barnes. They're out and about. Ron Johnson's out and about in the state right now. I know that because my mom said he was in western Wisconsin. But so, you know, Wisconsin remains a hugely purple state. Those races are going to remain incredibly close. And then we have Minnesota.
Yep, let's talk about Minnesota 5th because Elon Omar barely edged out Samuels, who is a more moderate Democrat with a lot of party backing. But in 2020, she actually had a 20-point victory. Some in her district apparently were upset she didn't back the infrastructure bill. What should we take away from this?
It was all about the police.
Okay.
She and local issues. You know, Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, actually endorsed Samuels. They went. There's a real fight between the abolish the police people and the reform the police people in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and really that is a question. And I'll get beat up by people on here who are on the left, but in truth, the local reality is people don't want to abolish the police. She's been pretty hardcore on that, and so. You know, Fry was primaried by abolish the police people. He prevailed. He went in behind Samuels. It was a really close race. She won by about 1,500 votes. She won primarily because of first generation American community, which is pretty big in the Twin Cities and in Minneapolis. But it's an example of Democrats trying to do the right thing as it relates to extremism.
Well,
at
that's
least on the
exactly
local
it.
level.
Because it's not like when you say the people on the left, there are not. It's not the entire left that wants to abolish the exactly. And Chris Rock actually has a really great bit about this, about who he calls. He's like he's not anti-police, pro-police, but he's like when I get robbed. He's like, I'm not going to call like the dude down the street. I'm going to call 911. He's like, I own property. and so I think there's this idea that Democrats are all like anti-police, and that's not the case at all. It's anti-police brutality, anti those kind of structures. And so, but it's interesting to see the effect of what being moderate and going down the center, like that's playing the game we're in. Like if we want to actually keep the Democrats in the House, we need to think about what's happening in the world around us and act accordingly, and not just assume that things have changed. And they've changed again because now the Republicans don't back the blue anymore. So it's what's happening. I don't even know.
No, I mean it's ironic. You have Republicans attacking the FBI. It's one of the most conservative institutions in government. So yeah, but. The other thing in Minnesota is Secretary of State's race, right? Like talk about extremism. You have a candidate who was nominated by the Republican Party.
Kim Crockett.
Kim Crockett. Sorry,
Kim Crockett. Every time I hear her name, I think like, oh, I would rather have Davy Crockett because I've read enough about her.
Davy Crockett was a man, real man.
I'd rather have Davy Crockett. No, because she's an election denier. She's a whole list of bad things.
She's anti-Semitic.
Yes.
It appears.
Yeah. Well, she made an ad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she'll be up against the Democrat incumbent, Steve Simon, a guy who we'd never need to hear about if it weren't for his whack job opponent. So
but again, this is the thing, and it's part of the game we're in. Normally, in the United States of America, we don't really have a lot of interest in Secretary of State's races because you assume that they're people that are going to come in, they're going to run the office well, they're going to be administrators, elections, registering documents, whatever secretaries of state do. They're going to
paper pushers.
Secretary of the State. But in the game that we're playing, because of the election stuff, we have to be incredibly cognizant of this. It's another race that's out there that quite frankly, is going to have to be focused on. And, Minnesota, as we're going to continue this show, obviously, for the foreseeable future, but as we're looking forward to 2024, Minnesota is a state that's moving like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, to be another ground zero kind of state. They're not quite there yet, but it's happening.
And again, Trygve, this is important because the Secretary of States often have to do with who's counting the votes, how the votes are counted.
Correct.
Okay, so I just want everybody to remember that.
They control the administration of the process, and that's true in Minnesota. So it's another race. I think we've moved that race up to like 16. The Secretary of State's race in Arizona, we've moved up to 19. It's a big deal. Pennsylvania, part of the reason why the Shapiro Mastriano race matters so much is the governor gets to appoint the Secretary of State. In essence, you're electing two positions in one, which is why, if Doug Mastriano wins, it's going to be really almost impossible to have a presidential election. Democracy, as we know it, is on the ballot in the places that we've identified. That's the game we're in, not the one we're used to playing.
Exactly. And I think it's so important that we continue to shine light on that piece of things, because I feel like we have to repeat for people to really understand. Yes, we have to pay attention to these Secretary of State races. Like, we joke, we have fun on here because sometimes we got to keep it light, but we are
because we're fun.
Because we're fun. Also because we're fun. But this is really serious stuff. So if you can share these shows, all of that stuff, because seriously, like, we have to look ahead at Florida now. Like, we've done a wrap up and we have to look ahead at Florida. And I used to live in Florida and I don't even want to look at Florida. Its primary comes up on the 23rd, along with New York. And Florida's like the perennial what the fuck state. DeSantis is just using it as a laboratory of autocracy before he wants to roll it out across the country. It's terrifying to me. But what should we be looking at as their primary quickly approaches?
Well, the actions on the Democrat side, it will be interesting to see what comes out of the Democrat primary, right? So that's going to say a lot. I think DeSantis is, I don't think I'm not going to kid you and say DeSantis is highly vulnerable or going down, but he could. And then you got Marco Rubio's race. That's matters less for the primary. Thing about the Florida congressional races is, Florida is so gerrymandered that there really aren't a lot of heated House races. But we're going to talk a lot about DeSantis and what's going on with that race next week. We'll talk a little bit about New York. New York's always good because you've got Elise Stefanik, always provides lots and lots of material. She almost seems like lately she's trying to channel her inner Sarah Palin, although she doesn't quite do it as well, maybe. So we're gonna have all those topics. We'll also want to talk about what comes after the Wyoming primary and what does all of that mean for democracy as well. And maybe we will have a little bit of discussion about DeSantis he's out on the road. Maybe we'll find some clips of that too to show people.
Yeah, because it'll be interesting to see how he connects with the people in the states that he's hoping to lead and what he's willing to say or not say, because we know he's probably trying to keep from angering Trump, but also establish that he's the guy with the BDE as well. So going to be interesting stuff. So that
the BDE thing, honestly,
I just can't believe that this is where we're at, but it is. So we're going to play the game we're in. And this is where we're at, y'all. Part of playing the game we're in. It has never been more important than it is right now to sign up to be a poll worker. This is a quick reminder. The U.S. Election Assistance Commission, EAC, has designated August 16th, 2022 as Help America Vote Day. There's a lookup tool on the website, and you can look up everything: requirements, hours, pay, training info. We need poll workers. It's usually been seniors, and a lot of them were affected by the pandemic. So please, if you can, it's a great way to learn about our system and how it works. And there are links provided on that website so you can sign up directly with your state or local election office. But the real key thing is voting. We need everybody to vote. Voter participation can get us out of this mess. Find out who's running where you live and vote for democracy. And if you have anything left to give, please donate, because we can't do this show without you. If you find our shows helpful, like I said, share them, drop these links. You can also join the union.us, and we'll put your superpowers to use to save our democracy, because it needs saving. It's an all hands on deck moment. So, Trygve, this is all the time we have.
It's all the time we have. You know what, Maya, though? One last thing. I know you're going to be out on the road a little bit. maybe we need to meet up someplace and we can invite some of our viewers to come and have a few drinks with us.
I think that sounds
Do it
like
live.
an amazing plan, because
Yeah.
we take this show on the road because it's about community and community building, and we can actually make this process fun and integrated. And by listening to each other, hearing each other, and understanding the work that's being done across the country, we can come out ahead. So let's not get disillusioned. Eyes on the prize. Don't get distracted by all the craziness this week, because I know there's going to be a ton. And I would love to see y'all out on the road with Trygve, because I am going to be in Pennsylvania soon.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you posted for that.
Right.
In the meantime, follow Trygve at Trygve Olson. You can follow me at Maya on Stage. Don't forget to watch the breakdown tomorrow, Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and Wednesday, catch me and Lisa Senecal, and we're speaking. We have Nicole Hemmer on with her new book that's coming out, The Partisans. So that's it. That's been our show. We'll see you soon.